Now, I've been obviously keeping my eye on the pricing here in 2024, where laptops have been really expensive. I would say 25, maybe 30% higher year over year here in 2024, which is not a good trend. But that being said, I've gotten a few value propositions into the studio. I just did the Asus ZenBook 14 OLED. That one is the Q425. That, of course, gives you good bang for the buck, sub $1,000 on sale. That is a great deal. I also looked at the Lenovo Slim 7i or the Yoga Slim 7i. Again, sub 1,000 if you can get it on sale. That one is another good proposition. But I got one here from Dell, from their Inspiron line, the Inspiron 14 Plus. I've reviewed the previous iterations on this channel, and they seem to be pretty popular because of a good value proposition, good price to performance ratio. This one comes in at around 1,000 or less, and of course, that is always welcome here in 2024. You get a Core Ultra 7 processor, the 155H, that's the Meteor Lake processor. You got improved graphics. The Intel Arc graphics is here. I'm seeing phenomenal battery life on this, so we're gonna get into why I think this is one of the best battery kings of 2024. And it also has a pretty decent display, actually surprisingly good display here. I wasn't expecting that. It's not OLED, it's not even IPS, it's a WVA display, which of course means a wide viewing angle, and it does live up to the reputation here. Pleasantly surprised in that department. But we're gonna cover everything you need to know about this good value proposition from Dell, and again, why I think this might be one of the better value adds here in 2024. Of course, that remains to be seen what you think about it, but again, the proof is in the numbers here, and we're gonna take a look at it here today. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the Dell Inspiron 14 Plus, the 7440, brand new for 2024. Coming up. Okay, before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Dell, I'm not being sponsored by Dell. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Dell is not getting copy approval. They're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit is on loan from Dell, and once this review is done, I'll be sending it back. Now, the way pricing is here in 2024 and a lot of laptops, it's really nice to see for $1,000. You're getting a pretty good deal here. 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 14-inch 2.2K display, a terabyte of storage. That's not bad considering the way prices are, as I mentioned. Now, pricing, of course, fully decked out. You're looking at about $1,200. That gets you 32 gigabytes of RAM, and you can go up to a 2.8K display. So that is an option you can go with. But I really like this price point here of $1,000 here for Dell, and I think it gives you a pretty good bang for the buck. You know the drill, folks. So let's get this out of the box. All right, we have some pretty basic packaging from Dell. It says, welcome to Dell, let's do great things together. A little bit of heft on this. And we get some documentation here. Inspiron 14 Plus 7440. Let's take a look at the power cord here. You can see it right there. And we get your power charger here. And this one is 100-watt USB Type-C. So pretty nice to have a pretty powerful charger. 100-watt, I wasn't expecting that. Okay, we get the unit, and it has a pretty nice feel to it. Let's see if there's any give or flex in the chassis. Little bit, but nothing to be alarmed at. Again, this is not going to break the bank here. Pretty nice build, and it seems like, yeah, it's an all-metal build. And I like this light bluish color here. It's like a sky blue. Very nice. And I'll get you the official color if I can find that. But, of course, this is a pretty nice overall package here. All right, let's do the useless test of the day, the one-handed open test. And yes, you can. And I like the ergo lift hinge here. It sort of lifts up. You can sort of see it there. Lifts up to greet you. 2.2K display. Full HD camera, which is welcome sight, of course. Thunderbolt 4. And HDMI, wireless and Bluetooth, precision touchpad. Again, for the price, I don't think you can go too wrong here. And you can get a look at that. Not too much screen wobble here. You can see there. You can see this is a light color. This shouldn't show a lot of fingerprints. Now, it does go back. It's not a convertible. It goes back as far as you see here. So that is as far back as it goes. And here you can get a look at the layout of the keyboard. And it looks like a pretty nice layout. So far, the key travel seems pretty decent. The tactility, the feedback have all been pretty good so far. I'm impressed. You know, for this price point, you're getting a pretty nice build with an overall good aesthetic here. That's good. Now, the power button doubles as a fingerprint scanner. That's the way you log in with Windows Hello. Now, there is no IR camera on here. It is a 1080p camera, but no face recognition for Windows Hello, for those wondering. Okay, let's get a measurement of the weight with the unit alone. You're looking at 1.581 kilograms, and that is 3 pounds, 7.8 ounces. So not too bad, a little bit of heft on it. Now, with the power charger and the power cord, you're looking at 1.943 kilograms, and that would be 4 pounds, 4.5 ounces for a total travel weight. It's a little bit of heft, but it is certainly a pretty solid build here overall. Okay, let's start off on the left side where you get a power port in, although they do give you that 100-watt USB Type-C charger, so that's pretty interesting. You also get an HDMI, a USB Type-A, you gotta love the legacy ports, and then a USB Type-C. Moving over to the right side is a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack. Next to that is a micro SD card reader, a heating vent, and then a second USB Type-A port. I would say all in all, a pretty nice port selection, nice array of ports there. The only thing I would say is I'd like to see a USB Type-C port on the right side. That would have been great to have two of them and one on each side, but you do get that one. And I would say a pretty decent port selection overall. And a full-size SD card reader on a 14-inch laptop. I'm not going to ding them too hard on that. Having a micro SD card is certainly better than nothing. So I do appreciate that's inclusion there, of course. And one last point with the ports, the HDMI is 1.4, which is a little bit disappointing here. It should be 2.1 here in 2024. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, let's talk about the display. And actually, I didn't have high hopes going into this when I saw the specs on paper, but having used it, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. It's actually a pretty decent display here. It's a Comfort View Plus display. It's a 14-inch display with a 16:10 aspect ratio, 2.2K resolution. That's 2240 by 1400. It's an anti-glare coating on it. It also is a non-touch display with 60 hertz refresh rate, so no option for higher refresh rate. But at this price point, I'm not too surprised. It also has a claimed brightness of 300 nits. I actually measured 406 nits, which is well above the claimed brightness. It's a WVA display, so don't get your hopes up that it's going to be like OLED or anything like that, but it is a really good display that has surprisingly decent coverage of the color gamut. It's also pretty color accurate, so I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised with the clarity and the sharpness of this display overall. Now, it doesn't have an IPS or an OLED display, as I mentioned, but it does have a WVA display. So I looked into it and I wanted to find out, well, what is a WVA display? Well, WVA stands for a wide viewing angle display, and actually it has very good viewing angles, and it also has surprisingly good contrast as well. So the colors are pretty decent here. It's got good coverage of the color gamut and has very good viewing angles. So I was very pleasantly surprised on how good this display is. So no worries in that department. So if you're looking at it and wondering, well, why doesn't it have an IPS or an OLED display? No worries. It's a very good display for general use here. And I love the fact that it has an anti-glare coating. It's a matte display, so you don't get all that unnecessary glare and reflection, especially when you want to get work done. You don't have to contend with that, and that to me is a big win. So this is the camera on the Dell Inspiron 14 Plus here for 2024, the 7440 to be specific, 1080p camera. It's not an IR camera, no face recognition with Windows Hello, but you can log in with that fingerprint scanner. The power button doubles as the fingerprint scanner, so if you want a Windows Hello log in that way, you can. Now this, again, like I said, is 1080p, 30 frames per second. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? Now they do have the studio effects. After all, this is a Meteor Lake laptop. It does have an NPU. So you do get the background blur and all that stuff. You get all the studio effects. This is a standard blur. This is the portrait blur. You can turn that off. And then on the auto framing, this will keep you in frame. And of course, it did a pretty decent job here. Pretty responsive there. So overall, pretty good. Again, the AI effects are in effect here. But I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. Now, there is a physical shutter switch above the camera that will allow you to get more security and privacy. You know, I love that. So overall, pretty decent result here, I would think. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And I'm very happy with the keyboard. The tactility, the feedback, and the overall key travel are very good. These are chiclet style keys that I thought was very comfortable for typing out long documents and emails. I thought the backlight worked very well. As you can see per key there, it's lighting up. It worked really well. Getting work done in a dark room or a dimly lit environment, that worked well. And it also has a really good feedback on it. Again, I've been very pleasantly surprised at how good this keyboard is. Now, having said that, it also has a mechanical precision touchpad. I thought the touchpad was very good. It's made of Mylar. It's not a glass touchpad, but I thought the responsiveness was very good. I thought the scrolling with the two fingers was good, and doing all the gestures works as you'd expect. Overall, a pretty nice implementation of a touchpad. Now, Dell also sent over this really nice travel mouse. It's the MS700 Twist and Go mouse, and I got to tell you, looks pretty interesting. Let's get this out of the box as well. Now, they do include some AAA batteries, as you can see here, and that, of course, is going to power the mouse. It's a Twist and Go mouse, so you would twist it like this, I guess, to turn it off, and then to activate it, you would turn it that way. Yeah, that comes off pretty easily. Let's put in the batteries. There's one battery. There's two. And that locks in into place. I like that. And then you put this cover back on here. Boom. And you got a mouse ready to go. And I like the fact that it says it found the mouse already. Let's connect that. So it's pairing the mouse already. And now it's ready to be used. Pretty nice overall. Okay, let's talk performance, and this is running the Intel Core Ultra 7 155H. We've seen it a number of times here in 2024 on the channel. 16 gigabytes of RAM and the Intel Arc graphics. Single core is on par with others in this category. Multi-core is actually pretty good on this. Actually did better than the Slim 7i that I looked at. And it also has on par performance when it comes to the graphics. Again, Intel Arc graphics are a step up over the Iris Xe, so good in that department. And when I ran the Cinebench 2024, single core was exactly the same score 100 as I got on the Slim 7i. It did 598 multi-core versus the 633. So again, not a powerhouse here, but for everyday use, doing Microsoft Office, email, web browsing, everything seemed very snappy, very fluid, and had no hiccups. So overall, pretty good. Now, when you compare this to the MacBook Air, which was a more expensive laptop, obviously $1,699 versus the $999, I got a better single-core score on the MacBook Air. That was a much better score. And less multi-core on the MacBook Air, pretty interesting there. And then the OpenCL, which tests the GPU performance, was less on the Apple MacBook Air. But of course, keep in mind the Metal score, which you see below, certainly did better because that is optimized for the Mac OS and, of course, the Mac hardware. But the overall takeaway is better GPU performance on this Inspiron 14 Plus. Now, when I looked at the Cinebench 2024, comparing it to that MacBook Air, that of course had the better single core, but the Inspiron had better multi-core performance overall. And I wanted to see how it would compare to the Galaxy Book 4 Pro from Samsung, the 14-inch clamshell that I reviewed. And it had less single-core performance, but slightly less, and a little bit better multi-core performance on this Inspiron. And better graphics. Really, actually, that was a surprise to me, as we got 34,556 versus 27,000 plus on the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Pro. Pretty interesting. So when I ran the 3D Mark to see which one was better, the Time Spy was slightly higher on the Dell, and the Firestrike score was higher on the Dell. So overall graphics performance was better on the Inspiron 14 Plus, which comes in about $450 less than the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Pro. Pretty interesting. And so I ran the Puget Bench DaVinci Resolve benchmark, and it got a much better overall score than the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Pro, 667 versus the 437. Better 4K score, better GPU effects score, and a better Fusion score overall. So this is going to be better if you're going to do some light video editing than I would say the Galaxy Book 4 Pro, which again comes in about $450 more than this laptop. And while the Intel Arc graphics are a step up over the Iris Xe of years past, we are not considering this a gaming laptop. I think we all know that, but if you lower some of the settings, you can get some playable frame rates on some of the more popular titles, but don't expect to play AAA titles on their highest settings anytime soon. And when I ran the Time Spy stress test to see if this will thermal throttle under heavy load, good news here, it got a 99.2% passing score, meaning it detected virtually no thermal throttling under load, and that's good. And as far as the surface temperatures are concerned, never getting overly hot. There was a spot above the keyboard below the display where the vents are, where it got about 50 degrees Celsius, which is normal here, of course, but where you place your fingers on the keyboard, not an issue at all. Now, on the underside, it did get about 45, 46 degrees Celsius on that underside there, but for the most part, overall, relatively cool. Now, one thing you will have to contend with under load when you're pushing this to the max here, you're going to have to contend with that fan noise reaching as high as 53, maybe even 54 decibels, which is quite noticeable. But when I ran it in the optimized mode and the balanced mode, when I'm doing everyday tasks, the fan noise was really quiet. It was not much of an issue at all. Now, one area where this really shines is going to be battery life, and that's not a surprise because we're seeing very good battery life out of these Meteor Lake processors here in 2024. When I ran the PC Mark X Modern Office test, it did slightly over 14 hours. That's an excellent result. When I ran the video playback test, it got 15 hours and 28 minutes. Another excellent result there. So the overall takeaway is if you're going to do all-day work on this, the battery will last you. If you're going to go on a cross-country airplane flight, the battery will last you. It pretty much was a very good battery powerhouse here for 2024, and that's a good thing. Now, you can get this in either 16 or 32 gigabytes of RAM. Those are the two options, and it is the LPDDR5X RAM running at 6,400 megatransfers per second. And I got to tell you, it's a pretty nice option here to have 32 gigabytes of RAM, and it doesn't really bump up the price all that much. Now, having said that, the RAM is soldered into the motherboard, not able to be upgraded by the user, which is not a surprise here in 2024. But the good news is the SSD is upgradable, and you get 1 terabyte of storage here, and that, of course, has some pretty decent reads and writes here, especially for what this laptop is designed to do. Certainly fast enough here for 2024. And I like having that expandable storage, gives the user more options and more longevity with this laptop. Now, the Wi-Fi card is a Wi-Fi Bluetooth combo card. It is soldered into the motherboard. You're looking at Wi-Fi 6E and a Bluetooth combo card here. And that, of course, is upgradable by the user. So if you want to upgrade it to Windows 7 down the road, you have that option. That's always good. Now, we're looking at stereo speakers here, Waves Max Audio Pro. It also has Dolby Atmos to help with the spatial audio. And the speakers, I would say, are surprisingly good. Now, not the greatest speakers I've ever heard, but pretty good for this price point in this category. But I want you to be the judge. You let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, let's give it a listen. Okay, let's bring it all home. What do I think about the Dell Inspiron 14 Plus here for 2024? And this has been a nice, pleasant surprise, especially a good bang for the buck here we like to see in 2024 when laptops are so expensive. This really bucks the trend. Sharp, brighter than expected display, a sleek, lightweight design, a nice, solid overall performance here with good graphics performance, again with that Intel Arc graphics, outstanding battery life. It has a comfortable keyboard and touchpad, and it has surprisingly good audio for this price point. And I like the price point. It comes in sub $1,000, and hopefully Dell will run even more sales, bringing that price down even more. Now, the negatives here, the RAM is not upgradable. That is pretty much par for the course here in 2024. And it has HDMI 1.4, not the more modern standard 2.1, which would give you more options. But again, I'm not going to ding them too hard here. I guess the price here, you're getting a pretty good input-output selection here. And so it's an overall good value from Dell here, especially if you're a consumer that doesn't want to break the bank, or you're a student, or someone who just needs a good general purpose laptop that, again, won't break the bank. This is a solid outing here from Dell, and I have no hesitation recommending the Dell Inspiron 14 Plus for 2024. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. Don't forget to check out my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.